Okay, so joining me today is former world-class three-day event rider, Sir Mark Todd. Hi, Mark.
Good afternoon, Panda.
Good afternoon. Right, first question I wanted to ask you is, what do you miss most about your eventing career and then miss least about it?
I guess the two things I miss the most is, one, I miss all my mates, and eventing is a really there's a great camaraderie amongst the riders, and we're a bit like a traveling circus. We go to all these events, we live in our lorries, you meet up with the same people at different venues all around Europe, and you form close relationships with them because of the sport. So I miss being a part of that, and I guess it's a bit hard to say because since I gave up, there's been hardly any eventing, because there's been no eventing this year. But I did actually watch a bit of cross country from badminton the other day, and I think I will miss that adrenaline buzz you get from going cross country.
Yeah.
And the mind still thinks, oh God, yes, I could still do that. But then reality hits and I say, no, you don't want to be doing that.
You could though.
and the things I miss least, well, that's easy. It's sort of having to get up and ride in the rain every day or whenever it's raining, and those early starts to go to competitions. It was quite funny, after I gave up last year, I still had a couple of horses to sell, and had a young Brazilian guy who worked for me riding them, and I had to get up at some ungodly hour and drive the lorry to some event and God knows where, for an 8 o'clock dressage. And as I drove in, they were all trotting around there, and I thought, thank God I don't have to be doing that.
Yeah, quite right.
So I don't miss that at all.
No, I'm sure you don't. Okay. Was hanging up your eventing boots for the last time, was it a very tough decision? And how have you found the adjustment?
Carolyn and I had talked about it for quite some time, about when is the right time to stop, and I'd decided earlier on in the year that I was going to finish at the end of 2019. But I think once you make that decision, it then becomes harder and harder to keep going. So at the middle of the year, I was deliberating with myself, do I really want to keep going till the end of the year? And I was finding it harder and harder to be motivated to do it. And then we ended up deciding to go to this competition in Ireland at Campfire. And I said to Carolyn 2 weeks before, I said, this is going to be it. That's going to be the end. And I didn't tell anybody, not even my groom, because I naively thought probably that I could just sort of, in the backwoods of Ireland, go there, finish up, and sort of disappear quietly. But it didn't quite happen like that. But yeah, no, it was a hard decision to make. Right, this is the actual point that I'm going to stop. Once I'd made that decision, it was very easy, and I didn't regret it afterwards.
No, okay. You've had some amazing wins. What stands out to you as being your most memorable and perhaps most satisfying, rewarding? I'm sure there are loads.
I don't know. I get asked that a lot, and it's very hard. I've been fortunate enough over a very long period of time to have had a lot of big wins. And in no particular order, I think, my first badminton in 1980, when it sort of came out of the blue, that was pretty amazing. Yeah. The two Olympic gold medals with Charisma. The first one because, again, it sort of came out of the blue. And the second one because I was only the second person in history to do a back-to-back with the same horse. Of course, it's now been repeated again with Michael Young. But, and then, you know, any big win is special for many reasons. But I think after I retired in 2000 and then came back into the sport, and then managed to win badminton again on NZB Land Vision. That was pretty amazing because
that must have been amazing.
I didn't know whether I could do it, and
you
to be able to come back and do it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Have you got a sort of particular, I don't know, your funniest memory of your sort of eventing career? Of any incident that you'd like to share with us? Then probably a few.
I don't know. I'm sure there's been loads over the years, but it's one of the funniest things, I guess, happened very early in my career. In fact, it was back in 1980 when I first won badminton, and we were sort of down in one of the outside stable yards. It was one of the hunting yards, and it had a barley boiler in it. There was a gas-fired barley boiler, and I thought after the cross country as a special treat for the horse, I would boil him up some barley and what have you. But you know, I couldn't get this damn thing to light. So you know, like an idiot, I bent down underneath it and lit the match. And of course, it blew up in my face.
Oh
I singed all my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and everything. I was jolly lucky I didn't, you know,
blow your face off.
Degree burns all over my face. But anyway,
that's very
I got away with it.
Okay, so next thing I wanted to ask is, what would you say would be the best piece of advice you could give somebody who is starting out now in their eventing career? You with, you know, the vast experience and also the benefit of hindsight.
God, that's a big one.
Sorry.
I don't know. Of course, the sport is different now, and the whole thing is much different, and it's very different for somebody starting out now to what it was when I did. But I think one of the best bits of advice I can give is that, you know, you can learn so much by watching others. And I used to love watching the best dressage riders, the best show jumping riders, the best jump jockeys riding, and not just watching, but trying to study and analyze what they do with their horses, and watching these good riders in the warm-up arenas. You can learn so much, and then try and, you know, even copy what they do when you go home and try it on your own horse, and see what works for you. So, you know, and today with you know, the internet and everything else, you've got so much access to watching these top-class riders ride that, you know, any young rider should take absolute advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very good advice. Do you feel the way the sport of eventing has evolved, was that a contributory factor in your decision to retire?
You know,
it's changed a lot, obviously, since
sounding, you know, you sound like a real old fart when you say it's not like it was back in my day.
True though.
It is true. And it's, you know, of course the sport has to evolve and everything else, and it's become a lot more professional. And I do sound very old when I say I think we had the best times in eventing in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah,
it is way more professional. It's the old format where you had the long format with the steeplechase and everything else. It required, I think, a higher degree of horsemanship than what it does today, although it's probably a different sort of horsemanship. But I don't know. Like I say, I think I was just getting old. It was more fun back then.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a contributing factor to me giving up, but it was time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you'll agree, eventing, as you said before, it forges very close and long-term friendships between the riders, probably unlike most other sports. Do you think it's the element of danger involved? The fact that 1 minute you're winning and the next minute you can be in a ditch, or the fact that it's human and horse together, so it's sort of two beings, or perhaps a combination of the two?
Yeah, no, I think it is a combination of all those things. It is one of the most dangerous sports that people can take part in, and I think that has an effect. And people from outside the sport have come in and seen, and they say no other sport do riders in eventing help each other in the way they do. It's not done in other sports, and I think it is a little bit because of that element of danger, that things can go wrong, people can get hurt, horses can get hurt, and everybody is basically on a level, although we're all there competing against each other and trying to win, are also rooting for each other.
Yeah.
And there's also not that many sports at the end of the day, because you're there at a 3-day event for 5 days.
Yes.
Sit round at the end of the day with your mates and have a drink and go over the day, and it's either gone extremely well or it's gone badly or indifferently. You and I have had a few drinks in the lorry over the years, Panda.
We have. No, but it's a very special I think relationship. It's
yeah, and you're all going through the same thing. On Saturday morning, the morning of the cross country,
awful nerves.
The loos are very busy. Everybody's nerves, and it's interesting to watch how people deal with those nerves too.
Everyone's very different.
I've seen people throwing up. I've seen people going to sleep. I've seen people doing all sorts of things to deal with their nerves.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it's like everybody's exhausted because you have this huge adrenaline rush, and then when it's all over, it's just woof, and you're
relief.
You're completely drained.
Yeah. Okay, moving on from the eventing, you were an amateur jockey for a spell. You rode in a few amateur races. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it was a very inglorious career and very brief. Although I was very skinny, even to ride at amateur weights was a struggle for me. So I had a few rides. Never managed to win a race. I think I only rode in about 3 or 4. The closest I got was I rode in an amateur chase at Cheltenham and finished 3rd, aided by fallers.
Pretty good though. Beat Cheltenham.
And another great fun thing was years ago they had this jockey event riders challenge where I think the jockeys had a much more difficult task than we did. They had to ride around the Open Championship course at Gatcombe, and we rode around the Aintree course, the Grand National course at Aintree.
I know which I'd rather do.
Petersbrook was modified, I have to say. But anyway, that was great fun and a great challenge. But yeah, I've always been a frustrated jockey. I wanted to be a jockey when I was a kid. I was very small up until about the age of 16 when I suddenly shot up, and that ruined my chances of becoming a jockey. So I went down a different route. Yeah.
Okay, so right, well, we're all going through this nightmare at the moment. Coronavirus has obviously had a huge impact on racing, along with every other sport. Do you think the economical damage it's causing in racing is going to have a long-lasting effect on the racing industry?
Well, I think it's something that nobody has ever been through before, this sort of thing. So, I mean, I'm in no position to answer, one way or other how it's going to affect the sport, but certainly it is going to affect. Well, it's going to affect everybody's lives, whether you're in sport or industry or whatever. But we're waiting at the moment to get some guidelines as to when racing might possibly start and how that's going to look. I mean, it'll certainly be behind closed doors. But as to the economic future of it, I mean, it's very hard to say. I mean, you would have to think with the sales coming up that it's going to have an influence on that. What is interesting is, racing has kept going in Australia, albeit behind closed doors and successfully. They've recently had sales down there, online sales, which held up reasonably well. So it will be interesting to see what happens up here. But you can't help but think that there are going to be owners who aren't going to be able to afford to keep horses in training, and prize money levels certainly are going to go down. We're a fairly resilient bunch, so hopefully it'll keep going.
So is there a classic in particular you really, really want to win, would you say?
When I was training in New Zealand, I always wanted to have a horse good enough to bring over and run in the Arc. And I guess, if I'm able to do that up here, that would be amazing. But, I would be very happy with any Group 1 win, classic or anything. I'm not that fussy.
Well, exactly. Any Group 1 win would be awesome, wouldn't it? Do you think you'll ever train a few national hunt horses, or do you think you'll just stick with the flat?
I think probably we will. If we have horses that don't quite make it on the flat, but they might be able to turn to jumping, then there's a possibility we could do that. But I only started last year, and so far this year we haven't been able to do anything. So it's early days, but I wouldn't say no at this stage.
Nice. Okay. So have you ever met any of the other New Zealanders who've been knighted in the UK? There aren't that many of them, are there?
Wouldn't have a clue.
Okay, fine. Probably a silly question.
So,
Do we move on?
I don't think there would have been many, actually.
I don't think there are many, but I wasn't entirely sure how many, so I'll put it to you.
I'll have to check that out.
I'll check that out. So in the ideal world, what would be your perfect day? If you could be anywhere in the world doing whatever you wanted, what would it be?
Oh my God. There's so many different things I enjoy doing. I love being near the sea on a warm, sunny day. I love skiing on a warm, sunny day.
Sun needs to be out.
Notice the theme there, not rain, sun. I love both Carol and I love going hiking and exploring places, and so yeah, any of the above.
Yes, okay. And is there would you say, is there a country or island that is sort of on your bucket list that you haven't been able to get to yet, but you really, really want to go and visit?
We've been a lot of places, but there are so many places we haven't been, and so many. The more you travel, the more you realise that there is just some amazing places all around the world. And I've been lucky enough to been to the Amazon jungle and places like that. I'd love to do more exploring and sort of slightly different, out of tourist route places.
Okay. So cooking Now, I've been lucky enough to experience your prowess in the kitchen. What have you always loved cooking?
It's sort of, I don't know, it's sort of came about by necessity, I guess.
Yeah.
When I was living on my own, I had to cook.
Yeah.
And then I ended up cooking for, this is in the early days when I had staff, I was cooking for them. I'm not much of a recipe follower. I'm sort of more of a cook. You look in the fridge, see what you've got, and then try and make something out of it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
I think it does work.
But no, I do enjoy it.
And what would be your perfect meal? You don't have to cook it, but
ooh,
you have anything you want.
Some sort of seafood. Oysters, love oysters.
Yeah.
Love anything well cooked, and I don't mean like overcooked, but anything well done and simple but tasty.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Preferably with a good wine.
Yes, most important. And if you could live your life all over again, but horses didn't exist, so no racing, no eventing, what do you think you might have done or like to have done? Maybe any other sport you particularly enjoy or could have been also brilliant at?
Well, funnily enough, we had a clear out, with another thing with this lockdown, you're doing all sorts of jobs that you put off for years. We had a bit of a clear out. We've got a container here that's got stuff that's traveled around the world several times and never been unpacked. And I was looking through, found some old school stuff of mine and found these certificates where I was athletic champion at school. I won the high jump, the long jump, and the triple jump. Right. I was actually quite good at athletics at one point. So I could have followed that, but of course I had a passion for horses, so didn't. Yeah. My other main passion now is skiing. I mean, I love skiing, and although I'm not as brave or as fast as I used to be, I think it's very similar to going cross country. You can either just go steadily and have a nice time, or you can go fast and put yourself under pressure and really get the heart rate up and get the adrenaline pumping and scare yourself a bit. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good answer. And finally, how does Carolyn feel about you changing to become a trainer? I'm sure she loves having you at home more, unless the novelty's worn off by now. But
I'm not sure he loves having me at home more.
Ask her later.
She was. I mean, for the last couple of years, she hasn't enjoyed going to competitions. She's gone to the bigger ones, but I've been, touch wood, I've been very fortunate in my career that I've never had any major accidents. And she just didn't want me to push it to the point where, something did happen. So she's very relieved that I've stopped competing. Having said that, now riding 2-year-old racehorses, I've probably had more falls than I've had in the last few years. There's not a lot to hang on to on top.
Oh God, you must be careful. Okay, brilliant, Mark. I think that's sort of pretty much covered everything.
Well, thank you, Panda.
One thing I just got to say, which I've been trying to find the picture. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, I did this mini one-day event at Oaksey, and I won the mini thing. And you just got back from winning your gold on Charisma, and you presented me with my prize. And there's a photograph of it somewhere, but I can't find it. I think
you're aging me, Panda.
Oh God, sorry. Actually, sorry about that. I'll take that bit out. Um,
Was I wearing a particularly bright and distasteful jumper,
no,
sweater?
no, you were wearing oh, I just remember the medals around your neck. I can't remember, but I'll find it. But it's just quite funny.
I
Um,
also found this, me presenting some pony club, and I had this hideous, brightly coloured sweater on.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'll see if I can find it. You might have done. You might have done. Mark, thank you so much. I might stop it actually. I'll stop.